The year is 1453. The city of Constantinople, once the glorious capital of the Byzantine Empire, is under siege by the Ottoman Turks. For over 1,000 years, this city has been the center of Christian civilization in the East, a bastion of culture, learning, and trade. But now, its fate hangs in the balance, as the mighty Sultan Mehmed II unleashes his formidable army and navy against the dwindling defenders. This is the story of the fall of Constantinople, one of the most influential events in history that marked the end of an era and the dawn of a new one. The Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantine Empire, was founded in 330 AD by Emperor Constantine I, who moved the capital of Rome to the ancient city of Byzantium, which he renamed Constantinople. For centuries, this empire was one of the most powerful and prosperous in the world, preserving and spreading the legacy of ancient Greece and Rome, as well as developing its own distinctive art, architecture, literature, and theology. The Byzantine Empire was also a major force in defending Europe from invasions by various enemies, such as the Persians, the Arabs, the Bulgars, and the Turks. However, by the 15th century, the Byzantine Empire had fallen into decline and disarray. It had lost most of its lands to its rivals, especially to the Ottoman Empire, which emerged as a formidable Muslim state in Anatolia and expanded rapidly into Europe and Asia. The Ottomans had conquered several Byzantine cities west of Constantinople in the latter half of the 14th century, and had even made Constantinople itself a vassal state for a while. The Byzantines also faced internal strife and civil wars, as well as religious schism and hostility with the Roman Catholic Church in the west. The population and economy of Constantinople had dwindled significantly, leaving vast areas within its walls empty and desolate. The only hope for the Byzantines was to seek help from their fellow Christians in Europe. However, this proved to be difficult and unreliable. The Byzantines had tried to heal the rift with Rome by agreeing to reunite their churches at the Council of Florence in 1439, but this was met with resentment and opposition by many Orthodox clergy and people. Moreover, most European powers were preoccupied with their own affairs and conflicts, such as the 100 Years' War between France and England, or were reluctant to aid their former enemies or rivals. Only a few states, such as Venice, Genoa, Hungary, and Sicily, sent some ships or troops to support Constantinople. The man who would change history was Sultan Mehmed II, son of Murad II, who had previously besieged Constantinople in 1422 but failed to take it. Mehmed was a young but brilliant ruler who had a keen interest in science, literature, art, and philosophy. He was fluent in several languages, including Turkish, Arabic, Persian, Greek, Latin, and Hebrew. He was also a devout Muslim who followed the Sunni branch of Islam. Mehmed had a grand vision for his empire. He wanted to make it not only the dominant power in Asia and Europe but also a center of culture and civilization that would rival or surpass those of his predecessors or contemporaries. To achieve this goal, he needed one thing: Constantinople. He considered this city to be his rightful inheritance as the successor of both Roman emperors and Islamic caliphs. Mehmed was determined to succeed where his father and many others had failed before him. He spent 2 years preparing for his campaign. The man who would oppose Mehmed was Emperor Constantine XI Palaiologos, the last of the Palaiologan dynasty that had ruled the Byzantine Empire since 1261. Constantine was a brave and pious ruler who had a deep love for his city and his people. He had fought in many battles against the Ottomans and other enemies, and had tried to reform and restore his empire as much as he could. He had also sought help from Europe, especially from Pope Nicholas V, who had promised to send a crusade to aid Constantinople. Constantine knew that he faced a formidable foe in Mehmed, and that his chances of survival were slim. He had only a few thousand soldiers to defend his city, many of them foreigners or mercenaries. He also had only a few ships to counter the Ottoman fleet. He had no hope of relief or reinforcements from Europe. He had only his faith, his courage, and his determination. Constantine did not give up or surrender. He did everything he could to prepare for the siege, He repaired and strengthened the walls. He stockpiled food and weapons. He organized the defense and assigned commanders. He rallied the morale of his people. He prayed and fasted. He even offered to abdicate if that would save his city. He was ready to die for his city and his empire. Constantinople was one of the most beautiful and impressive cities in the world. It was located on a peninsula that jutted into the Sea of Marmara, between two straits, the Bosphorus to the east and the Golden Horn to the north. The city was surrounded by water on three sides, which gave it a natural advantage against invaders. The only side that was vulnerable was the west, where a series of walls protected it from land attacks. The walls of Constantinople were considered to be invincible. They were built by various emperors over centuries, and consisted of three layers: an outer wall, a middle wall, and an inner wall. The city had many splendid buildings and monuments. The most famous and magnificent of them all was the Hagia Sophia, or Holy Wisdom, which was built by Emperor Justinian I in the 6th century as a cathedral. It was one of the largest and most beautiful domed structures in history. It was a city that many admired and envied, but also feared and hated. On April 6, 1453, Mehmed's army arrived at Constantinople's western outskirts. He had about 100,000 men at his disposal, including janissaries, elite infantry, cavalry, light infantry, and various foreign contingents. He also had about 300 ships, including galleys, transports, and smaller vessels. He had a large number of cannons and firearms, some of which were specially made for the siege. The largest of them was a massive bomba that could fire stone balls weighing up to 600 kilograms. Constantine's army was much smaller and weaker. He had about 7,000 men, of whom 5,000 were Byzantines. The rest were foreigners or mercenaries, mainly from Venice, Genoa, Hungary, and other European states. He also had about 26 ships, mostly from Venice and Genoa. The siege lasted for 53 days, during which both sides fought fiercely and bravely. The Ottomans attacked the walls day and night, using their cannons to create breaches and their ladders and towers to scale them. The Byzantines resisted with their bows, crossbows, spears, swords, and Greek fire, a flammable liquid that could burn on water. The Ottomans also tried to block the Golden Horn with a boom of ships and chains, but the Byzantines managed to break it with the help of some Venetian and Genoese ships that arrived as reinforcements. The Ottomans also attempted to dig tunnels under the walls, but the Byzantines detected and destroyed them. The siege reached its climax on May 29, when Mehmed launched his final assault. He ordered his troops to attack from all directions, using his best units as the last wave. The Byzantines fought valiantly until the end, but they were outnumbered and overwhelmed. The Ottomans broke through the walls at several points and entered the city. They killed or captured many of the defenders, and plundered and burned many of the buildings. Constantine died fighting near the gate of St. Romanus, refusing to flee or surrender. Mehmed entered the city triumphantly, and went straight to the Hagia Sophia, where he declared it a mosque. The fall of Constantinople was a devastating blow for the Byzantine Empire and the Christian world. It marked the end of an empire that had lasted for over a millennium, and the loss of a city that had been a symbol of civilization and faith for centuries. It also marked the beginning of a new era for the Ottoman Empire and the Muslim world. It established Mehmed as one of the greatest conquerors in history, and gave him a new title, Kaiser-i Rum, Caesar of Rome. The fall of Constantinople was not only a historical event but also an epic story. It was a story of courage and despair, of glory and tragedy, of victory and defeat. It was a story that marked the end of an era,